Welcome to another jam-packed episode of the Sports Card Nation podcast, the show that brings you all the important news from the sports card hobby. We'll have some debates, opinions, new release schedules, and info. Plus, we'll also discuss the sports that so directly affect the hobby we all love. We'll mix in an occasional gambling tip or two, throw in some life stuff, and bring you great guest interviews from the hobby and sports dignitaries. And if you're good listeners, we may even give away a few things now and then. Now, here's the guy who wanted the cards and not the gum, John Newman.
Welcome to episode 12 of the Sports Card Nation podcast. Full show today. Excited for my guest on today's show, which is Drew Herndon of Lemme Get That Podagraph, another show, fan favorite of mine that I listen to. And Drew was up to the minute with all the hobby news, really has a passion for what he does. He's going to bring that today on the show. We're going to talk a little bit about the football rookie class, a little bit about Luka Mania, and whatever else comes up. So it's great he's going to be on. We're going to talk hobby releases. Topps Baseball 19 is out. Panini 1 literally just came out, so I've seen a few of those boxes open, not a lot, but we'll talk about those releases, what else is coming out soon. We'll talk some baseball moves and trade. Real Muto's got a new jersey, he's going to Philly. We'll talk about some of those things, and we'll talk about the Super Bowl and wrap up the NFL season. And unlike Adam Levine, I'm going to leave my shirt on. We love hearing from our listeners. Without you, there is no us. We encourage your thoughts and feedback, and we do care about what you think. We encourage you to reach out to us at any of our social media accounts, and they are as follows. You can get a hold of us on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast. That's all one word, Sports Card Nation Podcast. Or our Twitter, which is at Sports Card Natty 1, Sports Card NATI 1. Or if you go to Facebook, you can search Sports Card Nation Podcast. That's 4 words, and you'll find us. Or you can email the show at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. Also, please give us a follow. We really do appreciate that. Thank you. All right, it's time for What's Crackin'. All right, let's get right into the new release schedule for football. Friday the 8th, that's today, if you're listening to when the show drops here first. Panini 1, although I have seen 2 boxes of this opened, if you will. It's a 1 card per box product. I have seen 2 open online. 1 pack contained a Bradley Chubb patch, and the other contained a Josh Allen patch auto to 99. Looks pretty nice, about a $129 retail for the 1 card. It's basically the equivalent to me in the way it's packaged and marketed. It's the Topps Dynasty football version produced by Panini, and it's cheaper, that's for sure. It's nice, but like any 1 card product, if you don't really hit something good, you might really have some buyer's remorse there. That's today. Also, on football, on the 13th of February, the 2018 Panini Plates and Patches football. In the baseball realm, we got 2018 Leaf Flash Baseball that will be releasing on February 15th. In hockey, the 2018-19 Upper Deck Series 2 edition will be February 13th on Valentine's Day. So give your honey some Young Guns love, okay? And Topps Transcendent WWE. I'm reading this price wrong. Right, $13,000. Ooh, Hulkamania gonna go rampant on your wallet. That's a lot of money. It'll be interesting to see if this product sells well. Definitely wrestling is popular, but is it $13,000 popular? That'll be interesting to see in the very least. Top Series 1 is out. I've opened some myself. Like I said on the show, we were talking with Eric Norton about it. To me, I love the new Topps flagship. Some people don't get into it because it's kind of a baseline product. But to me, it's new. It's fresh every year, whether you like it or not, and it also signifies kind of a rite of passage that baseball is just around the corner, and pitchers and catchers are going to be reporting to Florida and Arizona, and another season is set to begin. And we want to see those rookies, those Acunas, can they continue on that trajectory? Is Eloy Jimenez ready to take that next step? Is Vlad Guerrero ready to stick in the majors and be that game breaker that a lot of people think he's going to be? All those questions, we're going to get answers here shortly, and that sort of thing. So I like the product. One thing I did notice, I don't know if I just hit more than usual, but the home run challenge cards are back, and it seems like I pulled, 4 or 5 of them out of like 20 packs. Last year I don't remember getting them at that frequency, so I don't know if I got lucky, or I don't know if Topps is making a push to include more of those this year in the product. But whatever the case may be, I did pretty well for those. I like the Topps. I bought some obviously on release day. I'm probably going to stop opening it up and stop buying it for now. I think it's going to kind of settle down. Box prices will gradually come down, and it might be a product I buy a box when it really kind of comes down. Maybe considerably, I'll grab another box. I do like it, but like most products, the bloom comes a little bit off the rose, and then price-wise, it will level off. So, but I like it enough to grab another box when it does that. Check out our supporter, Break Stuff Market, your new innovative and global marketplace for trading cards, stickers, and sports memorabilia. They have some of the lowest fees on the market at only 4%. All their transactions are secure via PayPal and Stripe. It's easy to set up from any device, and they have some of the highest community and security standards to avoid being scammed. Don't wait. Join Break Stuff Market now. Go to https://breakstuff.market. Okay, joining me now is my next guest. It's a guy, I listen to his show, and I know people just say that sometimes, but I actually really do. His name is Drew Herndon. He's from Lemme Get That Podagraph. I'm assuming many of you probably already know him already. I love what he brings to the table. He's got a passion for the hobby that I admire. And, listening to his show, there's a lot of things I agree with, and every once in a while, there's something I might have a slight difference of opinion. So I thought it'd be great to bring him on, talk about some stuff in the hobby, and maybe some things we agree and some things maybe we don't. So Drew, welcome.
Thanks for having me on, man, and glad you like the show, and I really appreciate that awesome introduction. And I hope you disagree with some of the things on the show. That's what it's meant for, is to spark some debate. So looking forward to being here today, and hopefully we can hit some pretty cool topics.
Yeah, and like you said, it's really that's what life's about. I don't think anyone always wants to agree across the board. That's not always that fun, So.
No.
So on the last episode, the one I called the Super Bowl episode, I went through and I named 44 guys that, did some things on the football field this year that I think have potential to have outstanding careers. 5 made the Pro Bowl as rookies. And, I said, and we talked even off the air, you kind of agreed with me that this might be the best rookie football class in a long time, and maybe for a while to come before another one comes along quite like this. I think some people, maybe not lost on you, Drew, and me here, but I think some people don't realize the quality of this group. And, naming 44 guys, when I was discussing on what we might bring to the table and talk about today, one of the things was to get a list of 6 to 8 guys that may be good long-term investments as far as the hobby goes. And when I was trying to write this list down, I'm going to be honest with you, I'm looking at my list here, and I got 10, and I wanted to go deeper than that. But
oh yeah, I left quite a few off myself. I couldn't agree with you more. This draft class, next to 2011, at least in terms of this generation of talent and everything, I always look at 2011 as really that benchmark draft class because hands down, head to toe, it's phenomenal. And while we've really been blessed the last couple of years to have some outstanding draft classes. Really, the last couple, there were a couple of duds here and there, but for the most part, some great classes. But this class, like you did last week, that very extensive breakdown of draft picks that, have the potential to have a long-term hobby investment. In my eyes, you're dead on. I think this draft class, there's a lot of guys beyond the big names and the people that are all talked about right now that it might take them a couple of years, which I'll hit on in a little while. It might take them a couple of years before they hit their full potential. But this class is filled with potential, in my opinion, a ton of potential All-Pro, All-Star, Pro Bowl, Hall of Fame career type players.
Yeah, and and one of the reasons I went on that, rant and that limb to say maybe the best ever. It's just so deep. You're talking, 3-4 quarterbacks, 5-6 running backs. The receivers are probably the deepest at double-digit receivers that could potentially be ones. And then even on the defensive side of the ball, you're looking at Pro Bowlers all over the place. So to me,
the defensive side of the ball, it doesn't get the hobby love that it deserves, maybe. But there's a lot of defenders in this class that are going to be taking over those Urlacher spots and taking over those defender spots that actually do hold value.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing I like to see, Drew, in the future of cards is these defensive players who are game changers in their own right get a little more credibility, a little more hobby love, as they say, because in some cases they're really, the difference between a win and loss on that field for some of these teams.
Oh, absolutely. Hey, you're preaching to the choir here. I was never good enough to play pro football at any type of, high level or anything, but growing up I was always a cornerback. I'm a heavy proponent on defense. I thought the Super Bowl was awesome from a defensive chess match type of standpoint. I'm a huge defensive guy, and it's always baffled me the lack of respect that defenders get in the hobby. Besides those, super marquee names, the Watts, the Urlachers and stuff. But those are the guys I think we have in this draft class, which I'll touch on here in just a little while.
Yeah, and I agree. So let me start with my list. We'll start on the offensive side. We'll save the defense for last, save the best for last, as they say. And I got 7 names on this list, and like you said, I wanted to go more. I feel like not even being fair to a few of these guys, but the 3 running backs that really, jump off the page, and there's in most cases they're going to be obvious choices, but it's Saquon, Sony Michel, and Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb makes me a little nervous. Even Sony Michel, like I said on the last podcast, Belichick's history with running backs makes me slightly nervous, although I think he realizes now that he's got a true, franchise-type back. So I don't think he's going to handle Sony like he has some other backs in the past. Chubb, although Cleveland, I hate to say it being a Steeler fan, but they are moving in the right direction, and I think they really hit on this draft, and now they got a real GM in place as well. So, being a Steeler fan, things are going to get real interesting there. Your thoughts on those three guys, or anyone you want to add to that mix?
No, I think everybody that you mentioned has absolute, potential to be stars in this league. And I'm going to preface right now, a lot of the guys that I'm going to be mentioning, I'm going to be skipping the obvious choices, such as Saquon, Baker, all those guys. I think all the quarterbacks in this draft are going to be, like, at least the top guys. I think they're all going to have great careers. I think Baker has the potential to be a monster, but I'm gonna go for a couple of guys that are a little lower down the list. And Sony Michel, like you said, I think he's set up in a great system. I think Brady's got a couple of years left in him. He seems to have found a good niche in that role. So I really, really like what he brings to the table for New England, and their scheme and the type of player that Belichick likes. So I think he's definitely a great one. And obviously Saquon, I think the Giants, depending on how they hit in this draft with a quarterback and everything, I think the Giants could be in for a pretty quick rebuild. I don't think it's going to take as long as people think with Eli moving on from him. And so I could easily see Saquon having a big one. But if we're talking running backs, there's actually one made my list that I'd like to bring up. And that's somebody that unfortunately didn't get a chance to play it down this year. But that's Darius Geis for Washington.
Yep.
This kid, absolutely phenomenal. I honestly think next year he's going to have that Ben Simmons effect in basketball. He's going to be that player who's truly playing his first year of sports and is just absolutely blowing people away. The kid has all the talent in the world, and Washington, despite having some major quarterback issues now, Washington has a very talented team around him, and the system fits him perfectly, and he is so dynamic that Geis is somebody to me that from a hobby standpoint, obviously being injured and out all year, he was an afterthought, and his autos and stuff went down like crazy. I think he's somebody that in a couple of years is really going to establish himself as one of those top-tier backs.
Yep, I agree wholeheartedly. Obviously, as a person, you don't root for someone to get hurt. You don't root for things like that. One of the things in the card market, and you said that, people have forgotten about him, or some people, a good percentage of people, he's an afterthought. Me being in the industry, like you said, the prices came down because you're not on the field, and it was a perfect time really to acquire some of his stuff, especially believing the same as you do, and we're both on the same page here, that he's going to be a viable player in this league that just unfortunately got hurt his rookie year and couldn't do it then. I still believe in him, and like I said, you don't want anyone to get hurt, but the one positive in the hobby regards is it allowed people to get his cards at a lower price level than they would have under normal circumstances.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I think we're really on the same page there. He's super talented. Barring another setback, I think people are going to forget. Like, oh yeah, we forgot about him. I think he's going to open some eyes, like you said yourself.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I think he's got the potential to do some very, very, very big things next year in Washington.
Yeah, and I wanted to talk, like you said, we don't have to spend a ton of time on some of the more obvious choices. Like you said, I think Baker has the chance to be a real superstar in the league, depending on what they put around him and whatnot. Darnold, I think, is going to be that middle tier guy. I think he's going to have some of those years where he looks pretty good, and then another year where you wonder about him. And then the guy that's kind of in that, originally came in that group, and as well as I do, not everyone can make it. I'm not a big Josh Rosen guy. I mean, some of that is a little bit out of his control with the talent that they surround him with, but I don't think his game has translated from UCLA to the pros like some of the scouts initially thought. Granted, it's 1 year. It's too soon to be judge and jury, but early returns, I just, there's always that one quarterback that just doesn't live up to the billing. And for me, and like I said, I could be wrong, and it's only, less than 16 games of a body of work to judge on. But to me, out of that kind of top tier quarterback group, he's the, kind of the guy that didn't translate yet.
No, absolutely. I completely agree with you. I mean, in my eyes, Lamar Jackson, I think he's going to thrive because he's entering at the right time. If he entered 5 years ago, I don't think he'd last. I think he's going to thrive in the new NFL. Rosen, like you, I think is going to struggle a little bit. Baker, I think, has the potential, honestly, to really be somebody special, and it's that, all these guys have the football talent and the football skill. It's the mental game, it's the mental edge, and I don't know. I like his makeup, and I think Baker could be someone special. And Darnold has all the talent in the world, and if I'm him, honestly, I'm practicing and prepping for 3-4 years down the line.
Yeah.
Because then Brady's gone, your division's open, the AFC's wide open. You got Mahomes and everybody in there, but you got time to build a team. If I'm him, I'm in absolutely no rush because he's not getting anywhere while Brady has anything to say about it. But, all the quarterbacks I think are going to be great. But, we touched on running backs a minute ago, and if it's cool with you, some of the guys I had on offense were some wide receivers.
Oh,
There's
yeah.
one I'd like to bring up right now, and that's Cortland Sutton, the wide receiver from Denver.
Yep.
Cortland Sutton, to me, is going to be phenomenal. He was hampered in year one by an awful quarterback, inept coaching, and a ridiculous wide receiver depth chart. But he still ended up with 42 catches, 704 yards, 4 touchdowns, 16.8 yards per catch. I mean, Denver will get the coaching figured out, and eventually Elway has to land a quarterback. I mean, it has to happen.
Maybe he needs to come down from the box.
I mean, eventually I would think it would happen. But I mean, Sutton in my eyes has all the tools to be a top 5 wide receiver in this league. I mean, he's 6'4" with incredible top end speed that can also get physical and go up for jump balls, and really is a good blocker as well. And being in Denver and having this down year for them, his cards are incredibly affordable right now. And Cortland Sutton's one of those guys for me that, you mentioned at the beginning of the show, the deep receiver class that there is in this draft. Cortland Sutton to me is one of those guys that doesn't get the hype and doesn't get the big name, Calvin Ridley, all that, attention.
Yeah.
But he's one of those guys that down the line, I think is going to end up having a better career than most of the guys that are talked about a lot more than him.
Yeah, I like him. The thing that makes me a little bit nervous, Drew, is things you kind of even mentioned there when you were talking about him, was that quarterback situation. The other thing is because they kind of have a young receiver core, and they have another young man on that roster that I'm sure you know in Deshaun Hamilton.
Absolutely.
And when you get a situation like that, you wonder, I don't want to say cancel each other out, but you just wonder if one particularly gets hot over the other one, that one gets kind of forgotten, or one becomes the darling. It's kind of like, with the Steelers years ago was Antonio Brown and Mike Wallace, and Brown was a 6th round pick, Wallace was a higher pick, but the Steelers decided to keep Brown and let Wallace get a big contract somewhere else, and that didn't work out for Wallace. Brown became a superstar, although right now we all know the issues going on. But, the Steelers obviously made the right choice. And I don't think Mike Wallace was terrible, but I think a decision like that can alter kind of the course of history. Not to get crazy dramatic, but something like that. That's what I look at the situation in Denver, and you look at something like that maybe potentially, happening.
Oh, no, we've seen it before. I mean, heck, we've seen it in Denver before with some of their guys, this past generation of receivers. So it's definitely possible. I just think Sutton, I honestly think that both of those wide receivers are going to be good enough that they're not going to be able to keep both of them. And I think Denver may even go into full-on blowing up a lot of stuff, and a couple of these guys might get moved. But me personally, I love Cortland Sutton a ton, but beyond him, there's one other. I'll wrap up my offensive guys right now with one other wide receiver, and you can call me a homer, guys, whoever's listening.
No, we're on the same page.
But DJ Moore for the Carolina Panthers.
Yep.
This kid, I mean, he is incredibly special. Now, his partner in crime, Curtis Samuel, is also absolutely amazing. So it's kind of that Denver thing as well. They may be a year apart, but there's two incredibly dynamic wide receivers. But DJ Moore is, I mean, he's got he can take the top off of an offense. He can make short routes turn into absolutely incredibly long gains. He's very, very physical for not that big of a guy.
Yep.
I mean, Steve Smith himself, everybody's heard the quote, Steve Smith himself likens him to him, Steve Smith. and I see a lot of Mighty Mouse in him personally myself. So DJ Moore is somebody for me that he wasn't used a lot at the beginning of the year. And, I mean, he did end up with 55 catches for 788 and 2 touchdowns, 14.3 yards per catch. But he's somebody that is a perfect fit for Norv Turner's offense. And once they finally get to implement that full offense in with a healthy Cam Newton, I see DJ Moore as a hobby darling as we continue on this wide receiver train.
Yeah, and I'm not saying this because I'm talking to you, Drew. I wrote this down. I didn't need to write it down, quite frankly. But DJ Moore, to me, he may be the best wide receiver in this draft, and I really like Calvin Ridley too. So that's, I think he's like you said. I think he's a potential, every year Pro Bowl type of receiver. And while he may not have the size that some teams desire, we've all heard the saying when it comes to athletes, they play bigger than their measurables, and that to me describes him to a T. I think you throw away the media guide and you just see the production and what he can do, and you don't worry about how tall he is because he plays a lot bigger than what he measures, on a tape measure. So I love the guy. I think barring injury, he's going to be one of the next great receivers in the league. And I'm not saying this. I know the Panthers are your team, but he just... he's on my list when it comes to cards, and he's another guy that, to me, his cards are undervalued for what
they're cheap.
Yep, for what I think you're going to get long term from him. So he's one of those guys that I when we're doing the eBay search or looking at when we're buying stuff, I'm always eBay DJ Moore is in my search key. So because I just think, I wrote down 3 receivers. I wrote him, Calvin Ridley, and again, I could have wrote 10 receivers down. We talked about even some of the other ones. And Anthony Miller is another guy I like out of Memphis. But those, to me, are the biggest. I guess if you ask me the way I would phrase it, they're kind of the 3 safest bets, if you will. I'm not saying they're the only 3, but I think they just have the right situation, the right tools, the skill set. Cortland Sutton, like we talked about, may very well be right with them, and other guys we're not even mentioning. So, but those are the 3 I wrote down: DJ Moore, Ridley, and Anthony Miller. And I'll be honest with you, if DJ Moore is the best out of that group, I wouldn't be one bit surprised whatsoever.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. And all 3 guys on that list, like you said, are going to have incredible careers.
Yeah. Anthony Miller, he started out nice this year, and then he kind of faded late. That sometimes, as you know, happens in the NFL. It's a longer season. It's more grueling, and so I'll chalk that up to that. But I think he definitely has some of the best hands of the group, and I wasn't a real big Trubisky guy when the Bears drafted him. He had a great year. I'm still not completely sold, but he actually is better than I pegged him for, and he is a solid quarterback. So I think once the Bears situation at receiver is sort of like kind of Denver's. There's no one. There's a different guy. Kind of has a big game every week. One week Miller had a nice week. Then it's Allen Robinson. Then it's Gabriel. So they haven't really settled on really who's the one yet. But I think Miller long term, I think fits that description more than what they have anyone else right now.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. I love Miller, and I like you. I wasn't sold. I wasn't sold at all on Trubisky, but I think what Nagy's come in there and done, and what they're building is something absolutely special. And I think Anthony Miller's a chance for the Bears to redeem themselves after the mess that was Kevin White. And I think he's gonna. I think he's gonna be that guy. I have full faith in him, and I'm someone that actually likes the Bears in the NFC as a team to be around for quite some time, because I think that defense is just gonna, scary as this is about to sound, they're gonna be getting better.
Yeah.
And I think that they're gonna be an excellent team in the NFC, contending far, and I can easily see Anthony Miller having quite a solid career behind Trubisky and that quite inventive offense.
Yeah, and like you said, I think they're a team that's going to be someone to reckon with. I mean, let's be honest, the playoff game they lost was due to a missed field goal and some missed opportunities. They win that game, the whole NFC could have looked a lot different.
Oh, yes.
If I'm not mistaken, I don't want to bring up bad memory, but I believe you picked the Bears, which wasn't a bad pick.
No, I did, and yeah.
Well, you know what? I don't think you have any. It's nothing to be embarrassed about. If a kick goes the other way, a couple plays here and there, you were right on with that. And that's.
Oh yeah, no, you make your picks and you live with them. I'm perfectly fine with it. I called Alvin Kamara's Rookie of the Year also last year before the season started. So I mean, I've had my good ones as well. But you live with them and you get down with them as well. But the Super Bowl definitely didn't work out how I wanted it to at all.
Yeah, well, being a Steeler guy, watching the Patriots hoist number 6 was hurting me, right?
Let's move on.
I agree. So let's go to the defensive side, Drew. Again, deep. I mean, I wrote 3 names down. I could have wrote double digits.
Same here.
And I wrote 3 down, and I tried to pick 3 that I think, hobby wise, I'm not saying they're the end all be alls, but I think hobby wise will be in kind of demand type of players as far as on cardboard. And the 3 names I wrote down in no particular order actually is Leighton Vander Esch, Roquan Smith, and Derwin James. You got Denzel Ward, you got Bradley Chubb. I'm leaving someone off the top of my head. But those are the 3 I wrote down. I did mention the other 3 because I felt like I would be a bad guy not to, and I know I still left someone off. So I'll turn it over to you, to expand on that and what you have.
Well, 2 of those guys made my list as well, and that's Vander Esch and Derwin James. I think those 2. Vander Esch, I think, is really going to turn into. I mean, this is going to be maybe a little biased, but Kuechly to me is the best linebacker in football. But Vander Esch is one of those guys that in a couple of years when Kuechly's on his decline, somebody's going to take that mantle, and Vander Esch is one of those guys that has the potential to do it, absolutely. And Derwin James, he's one of those guys that I think he's going to be one of the first of this new era of secondary player that almost, I mean, he's not the first. I mean, you had Polamalu who played corner, safety all over the place, but there's almost this new style of defender secondary player that's
almost
coming
a
out
hybrid.
in the league. And Derwin, yes, exactly. And Derwin James is, the best at that tenfold. And I absolutely love the kid. So 2 of those guys were on my list. And my third is actually it's going to be my homer pick, but he's somebody that I think is absolutely going to be one of the best corners in the league in a couple of years. And that's Dante Jackson. The kid, he's hit or miss this year. He blows some coverage sometimes, but the crazy thing is he has recovery speed like nobody I've ever seen before in my life. And he has a swagger to him that's very Josh Norman-esque, very, very, very Josh Norman-esque, but maybe without the childish little antics that go with him. But Dante Jackson was overshadowed by Derwin James' monster year and Van Der Esch and a couple other guys having incredible years also. But Dante Jackson was up there, especially when we're talking about corners and safeties, as one of the best rookies at his position. And I think he's going to be one of those guys that where being a defensive guy, all these guys, their values are never going to hit, upper level unless they start breaking all-time records. I think Dante Jackson is one of those guys whose cards are going to hold that solid Patrick Peterson type value in the hobby.
Yeah. Well, corners is and if you played there, I played on the defensive side as well. I played on the line. A funny story, not to get into I don't know if you've heard of a former NFL player named Chris Gedney, Drew.
Yeah.
I was a teammate on the high school level of his. I played tight end. He played tight end. He was a high school All-American, so I didn't play too much tight end, and I realized early on that I probably should switch and play more on the defensive side, which is what I did exactly. He went on not only to be a high school All-American, a college All-American here in Syracuse, and then on to the NFL with the Bears and the Cardinals. He got Crohn's disease and some other digestive issues. His career got cut short. But as a teammate of his, as talented as he was always modest and down to earth. And we recently lost him. So, we miss you, Chris. But, not to go off on it, but, cornerbacks, it's such a tough position because, if you played it, you're on that island. You're either going to be the hero or the GOAT. There's really no in between. As that's the thing. What you always kind of make fun of safeties is you can kind of hide a little bit there, or you just come in and clean it up, and you're not always burned. Safeties do get burnt too. We understand that, but it's kind of the safer secondary position where you don't always look as bad. I mean, you can blow coverage, but corners, it's boom or bust. And it's such a tough position. It's going back to being a Steeler fan. It's really our bugaboo. If we could really fix that secondary, we might be playing in the playoffs rather than watching them. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's in this day and age of the NFL, the secondary especially. I mean, you've got to have one, or you've got absolutely no shot.
Yeah, and with corners, I think coaches have a lack of patience for that position. If someone's struggling early, even if they're a rookie or a second-year player, the clock's ticking because it's such an important position. And I think sometimes, they pull the plug on a young player at that position early, and then the psyche's ruined, and then they never, turn out to be potentially what the talent level is there. So it's a position you kind of have to, once you're on the field, you have to show out, or it might be next man in, and,
right.
And that's we talk about pressure at the quarterback position. I think corner is right there, in a sense where you have to perform fairly early, or you may never get back on the field again if you have a rep as someone who can't cover or read a receiver.
Yep. Oh, no, absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah, and you mentioned, it's funny, on the last show I mentioned Van Der Esch, and the guy I did compare him to me, I see a lot of Luke Kuechly in his game. I really do.
Yeah,
and,
same here.
And it's just, you just, I also, you're worried the way he plays. He kind of is a reckless abandon. He's more of a pass coverage kind of linebacker, but you always worry about injuries the way he plays. It's even going back to quarterback. Another guy I really like is Josh Allen in Buffalo. The thing that makes me nervous with him, Drew, is he plays with that reckless abandon, and you just worry about constant injuries. Trying to get that extra 2-3 yards or an extend the play, and then he gets injured, which could happen to anybody. But we both know, being knowledgeable as such, that sometimes that'll cost you.
Yeah. Oh no, absolutely.
So, but again, and of all the names we didn't mention, I mean, this class is just, incredible. And when we talk about the defensive guys not getting a lot of hobby love, I think what happens, Drew, is years later, double digits years later, when these guys are going in the Hall of Fame, I think that's when people will backtrack and get rookies and some early cards and low numbered cards and RPAs, and I think that's when the kind of the boom comes in for them is almost kind of when they're at the back end of their career, or even when their career's over and they're talked about going into the Hall of Fame. I think that's when people try to backtrack and make up for lost time. And to me, and to me, the smart money there is kind of get them now cheap, and then, you got to sit on it for a while, but, put it in a box and forget about it, and, just kind of stash it away for that day to come.
Oh, that's what I do. I mean, hey, it's the hobby. A lot of it's about prospecting these days. Anybody I think that has any potential value, I always snag a bunch of their top rookies and just throw them in that box and forget about that box for quite some time, and eventually they're worth pulling out again.
Yeah, I think that's what you really, especially on the defensive side of the ball, like you said, there's not a lot of always hobby love, but I think once the body of work's complete, and then people look at these stats these guys put up, they're like, holy smokes, he's better than Darrelle Revis. He's got better numbers than Lawrence Taylor. And then they kind of after the fact they recognized the talent. I guess better late than never, so to speak. But it'd be nice to see a little bit more of that during their playing days.
Yeah, absolutely.
So the other guy I wanted to talk about, and let me preface this by saying, Drew, basketball, out of the three sports that I follow, it's probably the third or fourth. I'm a New York Rangers fan too, in hockey, for what that's worth. But baseball and football are right there, neck and neck. Basketball kind of is in that second tier for me. I know you've talked about Luka. A lot of people, and deservedly so. You got a rookie averaging almost 21 points a game, 7 rebounds, 6 assists, kind of doing it across the board. Dallas is winning, and he's kind of the toast of the NBA. And I'm not arguing that he shouldn't be, but the hype is just. I'm trying to think really the last guy that was at this level. Maybe LeBron during his rookie year. I'm going even back further. Shaq, Kobe, were kind of on that level. And don't get me wrong, I think obviously he's an all-star. I mean, he probably could stop playing today this year and probably still win Rookie of the Year. That's how far ahead of he is, although I do like Trae Young. But the hype is just, I mean, I've done this for many, many years, and even I'm a little bit surprised. And I listened to your show and I heard you say I think, I don't want to misquote you can correct me. At one point you said you think it's actually a sort of undervalued, that he the hype could even be more and may be more. And to me, I think he's kind of at the ceiling to me. If I was to pull something, I have pulled Doncic, but if I really pulled something huge, a real short print or low numbered card or auto, to me now would be like really the time to sell. I think it's probably one of the highest points his market may be at. I mean, there's individual cards that may buck a trend here and there, but I think general consensus wise, it's to me very close to the ceiling now. I just wanted your take because I've heard what you said on your show on that. We'll have the better career in Bagley as well. I just wanted your thoughts on that, knowing how you feel about Doncic.
Like I said, I think this rookie class is absolutely phenomenal. I think Trae Young's going to be a stud. I think he's going to be absolutely incredible. But like I said, and I think Bagley's going to be good as well. But like I said, I think this is going to be one of those things where these guys are going to. It's going to take a little while for them to get used to the NBA game, to get used to this, and be able to fully live up to their potential. I mean, there's a very big difference between playing 1 year of college and doing what Luka's done, and so that's where I just see him having this massive advantage over them. But I think Trae Young is absolutely going to be a stud. Him and John Collins together, I think they're going to be a force together. But we'll see what happens.
Yeah, the NBA is a funny sport. When you look at it like a LeBron James, and when he came into the league, he was kind of like the darling, and everyone loved him. Everyone kind of wanted to play with him if possible. And he's kind of it's almost like WWE. He's almost become sort of like the villain, the heel. And, if you're following it, they're trying to get Anthony Davis and they're talking about trading half their team and picks to get it. And then they go out and they lose a game by 40 points. The team look flat. And I think, LeBron's at one side of the bench kind of by himself, alienated from the rest of the group. And, you just wonder all this, these guys hear all this stuff. They know what's going on, and they know kind of, LeBron pulls a lot of these strings and whatnot. You just wonder, like, he's become a guy that, I even read somewhere where even Kevin Durant's like quietly said, like, I really don't want to play with LeBron. Like, he's my friend, but I don't want to play with him. And you just wonder if he's kind of become sort of that I don't want to say enemy, but almost like the heel, like in wrestling. Went from kind of good guy everyone loves and, hero, wins a championship for his hometown, to kind of, I don't want to say outcast, but kind of, no one wants to play with him, and he's all about LeBron type of deal. And it's crazy how fast some things like that can occur.
Oh, that it is.
Well, I want to thank you, man. We could probably go on for 2 hours.
Yeah.
and I don't want this definitely to be the last time either, because I think we have similar thoughts and some different ones too, which is perfect with why this discussion is so enthralling to me. It's great to get a different perspective. While I've been in the hobby a long time, on the podcasting side, I'm sort of the new kid on the block, so to speak. So, like I said, I listen to 4 or 5 shows, and I think that's kind of what people do, is they pick the 4 or 5 they kind of like the best, and they kind of settle on those, and they listen to them at different times. And you're in that group with me. I don't miss a show, and anyone listening, I would tell everyone, listen to Let Me Get That Podagraph, because it's very informative. Your finger's on the pulse of the hobby, and I sure am listening, so I think everyone else should.
Well, I greatly appreciate that, man. And yeah, if anyone is interested, like you said, Let Me Get That Podagraph. We're on iTunes, SoundCloud, Google Play, Stitcher, all those. Anywhere you can find podcasts, pretty much we're on. And also check out the Hobby Show with myself and Steve Grad. It's a new web show that we have out. The next episode will be coming out this Tuesday. So it's a live show that you guys can tune in and ask questions and kind of interact with us as well. So definitely check that out. But yeah, man, it was a pleasure coming on the show. Like I told you before, this is a wonderful community we have here in the hobby, especially in the entertainment side. All the podcasters, really, it's a close knit group of people we have here, and you've got a great new show, and it was a pleasure to be on, and I hope to have you on my show, and it definitely won't be the last time I'm on here. If I have anything to say about it, at least.
Yeah, no doubt. We'll just do home and away series.
There you go.
Drew, once again, thank you. Let me get that Podograph. Go out, listen to it. It's so good you can listen, and I hope people would say this about my show even. You can go back and listen to some of the back episodes as well. So, again, thank you. We'll have you on again. I hope to be on your show as well. It's a pleasure.
Oh, absolutely, man. Thanks for having me on.
Oh, you're welcome. Anytime. For over 25 years, Newman Sports Cards has set the standard in customer service in the sports card industry, including same-day shipping. They've added supplies and some wax products to their already great arsenal of rookie cards, game-used cards, autos, and graded cards. Check their fully searchable website out by Googling Newman Sports Cards. It's the first thing that comes up. Click on that link. Or follow them on the social medias at Newman_sportscards at Instagram, or at Twitter at Nooms Sports Cards, or give them a call or text at 315-491-0239. It's time for From the Box Seat. So let's talk about the Super Bowl, kind of wrap up, put a little final bow tie on the football season, and put that to rest so we can get ready for baseball, start talking a little bit more basketball. Super Bowl, we all know, Patriots won another one, number 6. As a Steeler fan, that was hard to stomach. It is what it is. I predicted that they would win, unfortunately, and that's just what happened. And what I said on the last podcast, everybody, I was worried that the moment was going to be too big for Jared Goff. And if you watch the game, to me, that's exactly what happened. He looked, even my son said, we were watching it, and my son said he looked almost sick to his stomach, like nervous. You could kind of see him. He was kind of flushing his face. And early on, I was like, "Oh boy, that's probably not going to bode well." And he didn't play well. I don't understand what's going on with Todd Gurley not getting the ball. He says he's not really hurt. Coach McVay is saying he's not hurt. They were just the flow of the game. I don't know if there's a rift there. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out. Gurley said he's not going to get any kind of off-season surgery, and he actually left the Rams facility without doing an interview that he was supposed to do with the media. So, they say where there's smoke, there's fire. There's something going on there. I don't know. It's kind of an odd situation. I don't know what's going on. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out. You also got Goff there, who the Rams have to wonder, as great a year as he did have, he didn't really light up the postseason, and, they have to wonder if he's going to be the guy that takes him to the next level. And if they deem he's not, how will they proceed and handle that situation? So some questions for as great a season as the Rams had. They do have some unanswered questions and some things going on there that are definitely head scratching. So we'll see how that plays out. On the other side, the New England Patriots, just when you think they're dead, they're kind of like Godfather 3. They're back again. And, I think the one story out of this is the Patriots have a star feature back in Sony Michel. They've always had kind of role player running backs, your Kevin Falks and Corey Dillon, sort of. But I think they really got a workhorse stud back in Sony Michel. And I think, Belichick was kind of use a guy for a year and two and then just cut him loose and on to the next guy. And now I think they got a guy in that backfield who's going to, unless Belichick does something crazy, he's going to be the guy there for probably the foreseen future. His cards are starting to really pick up steam with his recent play in the AFC Championship game, multiple touchdowns, 100 yards, and he didn't falter in the Super Bowl either as a rookie. So while it wasn't a high scoring game, Sony Michel represented himself well in the game. So, as much as, like I said, it pains me to say, Brady's probably got at least a few more decent years left in him. They have a feature back. They always seem to have role player wide receivers that get the job done. I think that's the end for Gronk. I think that was the last game. I think he retires. I think even if he doesn't retire, the Patriots and Belichick are going to part ways. So I'm venturing to guess that was at least his last game in a Pats uniform, probably his last game in an NFL uniform. And, while I'm not a Gronk fan, I guess, if you're going to end your career, what better way than with another ring and a Lombardi trophy. So we'll see how that goes. My Steelers got all sorts of that thing's coming off the rails with Antonio Brown. Now he's got reputed domestic violence charge that the NFL's investigating. His trade value is literally rock bottom now, so I don't know what they even could get for him anymore. You got the Le'Veon Bell situation, and this once proud franchise has really right now become a laughingstock. And at the same time in the division, you got the Cleveland Browns going the opposite direction, on a team on the rise. They had a great draft. They found what looks like their running back of the future, their quarterback of the future. They have a legitimate GM. They have some receivers that can make things happen in Callaway and Landry. And they got a bunch of picks this year as well to add to these rising stars. So, it's a scary situation as a Steeler fan, that you're kind of, going the wrong way, and some of these other teams, while I don't think he's going to be a great quarterback, apparently the Ravens think they found their next guy in Lamar Jackson. So, I think the only team right now that's worse than us in that division is probably the Cincinnati Bengals. So, we'll see how this offseason plays out in the NFL. There's some definite questions that will need to be answered. And speaking about questions that need to be answered, let's talk about baseball. Still no progress or no signing in the Machado and Harper sweepstakes, although there was a major trade. JT Realmuto is finally being traded out of Miami. He's going to the Philadelphia Phillies, and they are giving up Jorge Alfaro and heralded pitching prospect Sixto Sanchez, and I think $250,000 in international pool money. But really, I think the Marlins were hoping to get more for Realmuto, but I don't think the market was as ripe as they thought for him. They do get a pitcher in Sanchez that's heralded. He's a fireballer, but the scouting report is starting to read on him that, other than his fastball, he doesn't have a lot of other good stuff. So we'll see. I kind of like Sanchez, but I think I liked him more when he was on the Phillies roster than I do with him on the Marlins roster. So we'll see how that goes. Rumors are that the Phillies pulled the trigger on the trade to entice Harper or Machado to sign there, to kind of coax them, and that they're really trying to build a winner. So we'll see how soon after this move does either one of them sign somewhere, and will it be with the Phillies. We've got to be getting close to signing day soon with pitchers and catchers reporting, even though they have time, I think, for their own logistics and family situation. They kind of want to know where they're going, where they're going to relocate, and that sort of thing. So I'm anticipating maybe this is the week that we know where Machado and Harper are going to be playing their 2019 baseball. Now with football ending, baseball is starting, but now we can talk a little bit more about basketball. There's been a few minor trades, nothing super worthy. Anthony Davis wants out of New Orleans. The Lakers want him bad. It appears LeBron James is kind of pulling those strings to get AD to Tinseltown. And some of the rumored scenarios have the Lakers really trading half their team and draft picks to get Anthony Davis. It kind of came out in the press, and soon after that, the next game, the team lost by 40 points. They looked flat, and I saw a picture where LeBron James was kind of on the bench by himself, and the rest of the team was on the other side of the bench. It seems like there's a little rift. So I don't know if there's problems there in Laker Town. If LeBron's kind of getting that rep now. You're gonna hear the interview with me and Drew where we touch on it a little bit. But LeBron's kind of went from a hero, a kind of beloved player in the league, to sort of a heel. You're hearing a lot of whispers and rumblings that certain big-time players have no interest in playing with him. He's become kind of a disruptor, a malcontent, someone that likes to push buttons and move guys and that sort of thing. And, as someone that did like LeBron, you can start to point to certain things, the whole taking my talents to South Beach and now kind of breaking teams up and trying to build winners and not caring about people's personal feelings. And, people don't realize, when trades happen, you're uprooting families and that sort of thing. So there's a lot of personal feelings on the line. Yes, it is a business, but still, you can alienate teammates when they feel like you're pulling the strings and you don't really want them around. And I think that's kind of what's going on. I think players are starting to see through that LeBron doesn't want certain someone's around, and how that dynamic works when they don't get traded is why I think they came out flat and lost by 40 points the other day. So we talk about Luka. The guy's averaging 20 points, 7 rebounds, and 6 assists. While he's young, he's very experienced. You're probably going to win your Rookie of the Year award and probably going to be a force for the unseen future. But I think some of these other rookies are kind of getting overshadowed, and the guy I like even long term, 2 guys really, is Trae Young, Marvin Bagley, both playing well, but with all the Luka Mania, they're kind of getting overshadowed. You don't hear much about them. And a lot of these trades too, going back to the trades in the NBA, folks, a lot of these trades are not win now trades like you used to see in the sports world. A lot of these trades are really setting it up for the summer blockbuster. These teams are trying to open cap space and franchise slots to go after some of these big time free agents that are going to be available in 2019. In the summer. And I think the Knicks are one of those teams. I think Dallas is trying to get even one more guy to add to Porzingis and Doncic. And, some of these teams are really trying to land a big fish in the off season. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. With going back to the Knicks, that's really what that Porzingis trade was for them, is they're trying to shed cap space and have a bunch of money to throw at the Kyrie Irvings and those sort of guys, Kevin Durant's, and try to get a 2 or 3 headed Munster super team and back to glory. But, they're 30 games below 500 right now. So how enticing that is, I think you're almost going to have to get a package deal. I don't think you get one guy without there being two guys. And so it'll be interesting to see how that plays out as well. Have a business or event you'd like to promote or highlight? Become a show sponsor. For a very affordable cost, we can highlight your company or business, either on the podcast or on our website or both. So whether you're a dealer, a breaker, or any other business, we really would love to work with you. Contact us at any of our social medias or email us at sportscardnationpc@gmail.com. That's sportscardnationpc, all one big word, @gmail.com. We look forward to working with you.
You've been listening to the Sports Card Nation podcast. Join host John Newman next week as he gives you another jam-packed episode of all things related to the sports card hobby. And a little extra fun, too. Don't forget to check out the show on Instagram at Sports Card Nation Podcast.